This content was created purely for entertainment and informational purposes. The creators of this vlog do not endorse drinking and driving, debauchery, underage drinking, public intoxication, speeding, street racing or any other form of delinquency. I'm just a guy, with a drink, talking about cars. Please don't take this too seriously.
Back again, it's your boy, the Killer Bee, the Fat Man, the Africanized Honeybee, the Car Guy Blog 05 guy, the @05 Car Guy, @05 on Twitter, @05 on Instagram, @05 on Facebook. The word zero, ZERO, the number 5, cinco, the word car, CAR. Back with me, as always, is my fabulous co-host, May Flowers. What up, May?
What up?
I am enjoying a lovely bourbon.
Ooh, I was going to ask you what you're drinking. Because I'm not...
Name redacted.
Because we're not sponsored.
A high-end bourbon, and I'm not sponsored, so I'm not telling you.
I put a post on the gram the other day, and it had a lot of hashtags, as IG posts are supposed to have, right? You know, we follow the marketing. This is how you do it. Mm-hmm. And I got flagged, and it says, this looks like sponsored content. You need to add. And I was like, well, look at Instagram recognizing my little loser ass account over here. And then I had to hit the button like, no, this is actually not sponsored. But somebody could throw me some free stuff, I'll take it.
Right. That's like when I got a copyright strike on one of my YouTube videos. I felt so privileged.
I know, right?
It had been like 10 years between copyright strikes. It's like somebody paid enough attention to my, even though I know that bots do that now. But the funny part was, it wasn't even a real copyright strike. It was the built-in, I was playing Gran Turismo, and it was the built-in music in Gran Turismo, like that plays in between the racing segments.
Oh, yeah.
But
so it wasn't even like music you could pick up.
Well, no, those are real songs by real artists. It's just that they're...
Oh, yeah, no, that's real
it's
stuff.
Old as dirt. But,
right.
YouTube was able to flag from that little snippet. YouTube was able to flag it, and I was like, okay, note to self: turn off the music on Gran Turismo, edit out all the interstitials. So I started editing out the interstitials.
One of my favorite Twitter people is in Twitter jail right now from some copyright stuff from like 2018 that the bots are just going through and flagging. Man. So luckily, this person has a burner account that she will switch to when the main account gets shut down, but it's like, come on. So
I told you this Facebook group I'm in that was founded by the guy that lived next door to me, well, 2 doors down from me when I was a freshman. This group, we had this giving campaign.
Oh, yeah.
So the moderator and founder of the group, the admin, is in Facebook jail. He had to get a bootleg video that somebody posted through their account for us to see him congratulating us on all the money we gave to our alma mater.
Well, what sent him in Facebook jail? Did he say?
I don't have no idea, but knowing him, it could be anything. He's prolific and obscene.
It's interesting that,
and political.
I've heard several stories of people
it could be anything.
Right. I've heard several stories of people in Facebook jail, and yet every couple of months I still get tagged in some random posts by some random friend of a friend of a friend who got hacked, bought, for something that's utterly disgusting. And I'm like, and yet regular people are in Facebook jail. I'm confused.
The people I know who are in Facebook jail usually earned it. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, this is also why I believe in not putting a whole bunch of real thoughts and opinions on Facebook, but that's
social media sucks. But speaking of which, I hear you have some questions for me that were harvested from the various social medias.
Yeah, since we're on and popping right now, we've got listener questions, or I guess viewer questions. I don't know.
Sure.
Friends of the pod.
Now that I'm right at the 20 subscriber mark.
Hey, listen.
Forward
the
progress.
Hive has to start somewhere, right?
Forward progress.
So,
if I go back to 18, I'm gonna be mad. But as long as the number keeps going forward, I'm okay, even if it's slow. Okay,
Well,
so
I think at 25 you need to come up with a name for the followers, right?
right,
That's,
right.
you know.
So what's going to
So
happen now is you're going to ask questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them off the top of my head. And then when I'm doing the edit on this, I will go back and correct like I always do. If I say something wrong, I'll correct it on screen during the final edit because that's my habit now.
Okay.
So
I
let's do
lots
this.
of people do that. All right. So the first question we have says, "What is the fastest you've ever driven and where?"
Roughly 120 miles an hour at Exotics Racing in Las Vegas. And their track is sneaky because their track was designed specifically for what it is, and you cannot go fast there. In a 600 horsepower car, you're still hard pressed to do more than about 120 miles an hour on the front straight.
And I'm assuming that's intentional so that you don't bust yourself up.
It keeps them from killing people because the other place in Las Vegas that used to do exotic car ride-alongs like that killed somebody because they got out of control and hit a wall.
That makes sense.
Exotics Racing is set up in such a way that it's very difficult for you to hit anything, even if you lose control of the car. So yeah, 120 miles an hour. On the big, when I was doing the HPDEs and more so the Redline time attacks, the big area like Gateway International in St. Louis, I could get the 240 up to about 110 there, but the 240 only had 150 horsepower. You know, if I had a car with real power, those are places that I could work up some legitimate speed. But yeah, 120 is about as fast as I've ever been.
Okay. So the next question is, what's up with all the Nissans?
I don't know. I do know. Late in my college career, as I started drooling about the fact that I was going to have a real job soon and be able to buy a car, I started looking for what kind of car I wanted. And the Nissan Z and the Mazda RX-7 they're cars that imprinted on me very early in life. I like rear-wheel drive cars, but I did not want a Camaro or a Firebird because Camaros and Firebirds had a certain connotation. Also, I test drove a Camaro, and physically, it was difficult for me. I'm both too short and too tall to fit in that last generation of, wasn't the last generation, before they discontinued the Camaro and then brought it back later. There at the end of the 90s, that generation of Firebird and Camaro, I was too tall and too short for it. I couldn't see over the cowl properly, but I would hit my head on the headliner getting in and out of it, which I thought was really odd.
I say that's very odd.
Yes. So I looked at a Miata, but I don't like convertibles. I looked at a 300ZX twin turbo because I didn't want a normally aspirated, but the insurance premiums on the twin turbo were painful. As a 25-year-old, I didn't want a 5-liter Mustang because anybody can make a Mustang fast. That's not a challenge. Yeah, I just sort of process of elimination. I wanted a 300ZX, couldn't get one. I got the next closest thing.
That makes sense.
And go ahead.
When I first started driving, one of my neighbors had a Miata, and it was just the cutest little thing. And that was one day, if I get a real job and have real money and then have a regular car and then maybe get a sports car or something like it, I'll get a Miata.
Right. But yeah,
okay.
I started with the Nissans and I've just stuck with them ever since because of the Japanese brands that have always kept a rear drive chassis around. They're my favorite.
Cool. So, do you do all of your own work?
I don't weld. So, when I was a younger man with better joints, yes, I did pretty much everything myself. If it didn't require me to do any machining because I didn't have machine tools, but anything that just required a wrench or a lift or power drill or something, I did all that myself. So in the Stinger, the roll cage was welded in by a guy, and I just found his name. He was actually a member of Tar Heel Sports Car Club back in the day. Actually, he was one of their track day inspectors, actually. So he welded my cage for me. It was a kit, but he welded it together and put it in the car. And the cylinder head porting and polishing was done by a coworker who would do sub work for some of the NASCAR guys, especially some of the sportsman level guys there around town in Western North Carolina. But other than that, yeah, I did everything myself.
And is most of this regular tools, or do you need like specialty stuff?
There's some
or like minimal specialty stuff.
When you start building engines, you have to get some specialty stuff, but I bought them piecemeal as I went. Nice thing about having a reasonably good income and being single is that you always have a little disposable income around, and in between trying to date and keep my house from falling in, I'd pick up a part here and a part there, and over the years I've got a large rolling tool case with a bunch of Craftsman tools in it. I bought them over the last 20 some odd years.
Alrighty. Were you a street racer? Or I guess, are you a street racer? Do you want to start street racing?
No. And that's not to say that I was not young and stupid and didn't get into the occasional stoplight battle. But no, like real dedicated, diehard, organized street racing, no, I never got into that. To me, it was counterproductive.
There seems to be somebody in my neighborhood who wants to start a street racing group or is part of a street racing group, and it's like, this is not the place.
They started doing it in Durham, and social media makes it really easy because it's easy to coordinate, especially on short notice. But especially now, I'm getting towards 50 and I know better. But when I was young, it was just a fear of getting nabbed by the cops. Now it's more like the fear of killing somebody or killing myself, but especially killing somebody else.
Yeah.
For what? Not when I can afford to pay the entry fee at the local test and tune at the drag strip. I'm good.
Right. Or go to Vegas and drive the for real cars on a closed space where you're not going to hurt yourself.
I mean, I hate to phrase it that way, but I hate drag racing.
I mean, if you hate it, that's what it is.
I used to like it. You know, Battle of the Imports, Nopi, Phantasm Motorsports at the Rock. Those things pretty much broke me out of drag racing. I've got a video about it, why I quit drag racing.
Like and subscribe.
Right.
Why do you think there aren't more Black people in racing culture?
That's a good question. I've been asking myself that for years, and we have to separate some things. So if you go to, because I used to go to the Piedmont Bike Fest every year, right? And that's essentially a Black event. Like if you go to the drag strip, you'll find, especially the small town drag strips, you'll always find Black guys with Chevelles and Novas and Camaros and trucks, you know, drag racing with the big V8s with nitrous and carburetors. And you'll find, I mean, I got an uncle that is big time into drag racing. And I know lots of Black folks that drag race motorcycles at least on a sportsman level, and a few that do it, you know, on a pretty serious professional level. But when you get to the car stuff, especially the road racing side, it's like finding unicorns. And I assume that's a money thing, but with what some of these people spend on their bikes, they could buy a car and go autocrossing a lot cheaper. They may not know that, but so then you ask yourself, well, is it a social thing? Is it people not wanting to go places where they're the only Black person around? And like in my mind, that's probably the right answer.
And then so the few Black people, like the few unicorns, you know, that they're out there, do you all know each other, or are you so is there the Black people do race Facebook group? Because I know as the runner, there aren't that many Black people in long distance running, although there are more of us. But I find that when I go to races, I see the same faces. We all know each other. There are now several IG, Facebook groups. So, I could be in Wyoming, and a lot of times there will be targeted takeovers of, we're all going to go do this one race in Wyoming because we don't want to be the only one there. So if 40 of us show up, we'll at least feel better about being the only 40 chocolate chips in this cookie. Does that exist in racing?
I have not found those people yet. Now, historically, back in the day, there used to be something called the Black American Racer Association, and there was another organization, I think, that promoted blacks in motorsports, but they were mostly focused on professional motorsports. Specifically, I think they were kind of NASCAR and drag racing, big time drag racing focused, I think.
And you would think that in the days of social media.
Well, on the grassroots level, I just haven't found those folks. I found the, Black NASCAR fans folks, but I haven't found the Black people who actually race cars folks. On the other hand, I haven't checked Reddit, and I know there's some people that hide in Reddit and do some stuff that, you got to really dig down in the subreddits to find them. But no, in my searching of YouTube and Facebook, I have not found those people yet.
That's interesting.
My hope was that this YouTube channel would help be a focus for some of that. But I think with the current state of the economy, that's just like, ugh. But I mean, they're out. Like I said, they're out there because if you go by Cars and Coffee, occasionally you'll see a guy, or I know a classmate whose dad is big into Corvettes. I mean, he doesn't race them, but he's owned multiple Corvettes. I have an uncle that's owned multiple Nissan Zs and Datsun Zs and RX-7s and Porsches and Corvettes over the years. Again, he doesn't race, but he, it's like if you find the Black people that have sports cars, then you can probably eventually find the people that actually want to race those sports cars. But I haven't found them yet.
Well, we'll see what happens after this gets released out into the world. Maybe this will spark something.
Right.
Either that, or you're gonna have to start the group, because that's every founder's origin story about, I was looking for this such and such and such and I didn't find it, so I started it. And You'll be on how I built this, and you'll get famous. It'll be a whole thing.
Yeah, it'll be a whole thing.
We'll just put that into the universe. Okay, so our next question says, it seems like you are a KA guy, not an SR guy. Why? And I don't know what that means. So
Nissan heads. Okay, so yes, my Nissan 240SXs have always been powered by KA24 DEs, which is the engine that they came with here in North America. But in Japan and Europe, that same chassis usually is shipped with a SR20 DET, sometimes normally aspirated, but usually with turbo. So there are some differences. The short version is people consider the KA to be a truck engine, which is true because it was used in the Nissan hardbody pickup truck, but that's not the only place it was used. It also saw duty in the Altima, it saw duty in the minivan. It was their quote unquote high torque engine as compared to the 2-liter. It's got a really long stroke and a fairly large bore. It is not designed to rev to high RPMs. It is not a sports car engine. However, Nissan felt like they got burned in the United States with the small bore turbo engines, and so they started shying away from those. So when the 240SX, when the S13 came to the United States, it no longer had a turbocharged engine. It only came with the KA24, first the DE, and then came with the KA24E, the single cam 3-valve engine, and then later it came with the KA24DE, the dual cam engine. I don't do SR20s because the SR20 DET was never sold in the United States, which means parts can be, you can get parts, but the KA24, I can go to any AutoZone, any Napa, any Advanced Auto Parts and get parts for a KA24 DE. I can go to most junkyards and find parts for a KA24DE. I was not always guaranteed that with the SR20 DET, especially the turbo side stuff, the plumbing and all that stuff. Those are only available in the US in terms of used parts as gray market parts. You can't go to the pull apart and get the parts you need for a KA24. Also, KA24s are dirt cheap because everybody was pulling the KA24 out of their 240 and putting SR20 in. So people had KAs sitting around for next to nothing. The engine that's in my race car right now cost me $250.
Okay, that sounds like that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, this must be from another one of the diehards. So why not swap a small block into your 240?
Yeah, people have been asking me for that for 20 years. When I bought when I bought Project Blue Streak, the reason why I got Project Blue Streak for the price I got is because a guy had bought it to put a small block Chevy in it and didn't get around to it, started working on some other stuff and just let it go cheap because it was just taking up space in his yard. People have been asking me about putting a small block in the 240 specifically since that became a thing. I don't know, 15 years ago maybe. Never been my thing. I don't have a problem with engine swapping. I do have a problem with swapping engines from other nameplates. To me, you lose the purity of your car, the purity of your brand. I would never put a non-Nissan engine into a Nissan product.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, that's me. Well, dudes were doing it, and I think it started with the RX-7 because rotary engines tend to blow up, and small block Chevys are cheap, and the parts necessary to put a small block Chevy into an older RX-7 were not difficult to fabricate early on. And then companies started offering kits, and then it started being put a V8 in your 240, put a V8 in your RX-7, put a V8 in your Miata. Any rear drive Japanese car, there's a kit to put a Chevy small block in it, and I'm not that dude. No disrespect to the people that do it. It's just not my thing. To me, it's not
on brand for you.
Right. To me, it's the Mustang corollary. Anybody can make that fast. I mean, if you put a big engine in a little car, it's automatically fast. Okay, that doesn't require any skill to tune. For me to build my 240 into what it is today took a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of me. I mean, yes, my turbocharger came in a kit, but I altered that kit. I put different injectors in, I put a different computer in. I built that, and maybe that's the engineer in me, but every part of that car is something that I spec'd myself for a reason. And it exists in that package because I said so. And it is the car I built it to be, and it does the things I want it to do. And I'm very proud of that. So, no, it's not as fast as a 5-liter Mustang. It's not as fast as an S13 with a LS1 in it. But so what? It's mine.
All right. And you said what you said.
Exactly. Put some respect on my name.
Yeah. All right. So the last question I think we'll do for today asks why you don't show your face. Because we out here on these internets. Duh.
One, because I'm a grown bleep man with a job and a family. No, with a career and a family. I mean, I'm in a job search right now, and I learned a long time ago that things you say and do on the internet, even in the name of entertainment or fun, even if they are not offensive, can color you in a certain way, and it's better to have some insulation from that. But more to the point, I'm an everyman, so I might as well be an everyman, right?
Ooh, that's like the media savvy answer that your publicist would want you to say if you had a publicist. But I think you just hit on a very important thing.
I'm smarter than my publicist would be. Oh, that wasn't very that wasn't very everyman of me, was it?
That wasn't very everyman of you to say that.
No,
but I think it's
honestly, there's two things. One, my fluctuating weight over the years drives me nuts. And two, I got a thing about crooked teeth, and my teeth are crooked. So those two things make me not like seeing myself on video. Other people probably wouldn't care because I just look like I look like a person. But as I once quipped, I've got a face for radio and a voice for silent film. So
wow. But no, I feel you.
Yeah,
all right. So that's it from
I'm
the
not trying to
mailbag.
be mysterious or dark or whatever. I just, as much as I hate listening to my voice when I edit, the same way I hate looking at myself, because I'm my own worst critic, and I'm always nitpicking. Like, and if I'm showing my face on film, then I'm always going to be like, oh man, you need to do this. You need to smile more. You need to shave. You need to trim your mustache. Da 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 da. Da. Oh, your acne's flaring. Yeah, I don't know. I'll drive myself
we don't need
nuts.
we don't need those kind of problems.
Right.
Because again, this is not Hollywood.
Right.
I get it. Totally makes sense.